Welcome to the podcast, and thanks for listening. Today's guest is Martin from the Chat Ministry, where I volunteer, and he is a missionary in Germany. He's been in Poland, and originally he's from the Netherlands, I think, right? So thank you for being here, and I'm looking forward to hearing your testimony.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Good to see you. Greetings from Germany. I still have to practice my German a little bit, so how am I going to do this in German? Oh, well, we'll skip that part. Yeah, my testimony, I don't know. It's a great testimony, but it's also it might also be a rough one for some people who are listening in. So if you need help, please reach out to somebody and talk with somebody else. That might be good. So, that might be good. The chat ministry that Kay is working with might be a good way to reach out if you're not doing great.
Yeah, I could give that in private. There are reasons why I'm not sharing it publicly, but okay. So, on your video, in your video you shared how God provided for you when you had no place to live, and there was miracle after miracle. Can you share that?
Yeah, sure. Somewhere in 2012, I broke my back, stepped out of the car. There was snow, and one thing led to another, and I broke my back. I really heard it snap, so that was quite funny. They called an ambulance, and the ambulance came, and the paramedics said, well, I guess it's just some muscles, or it doesn't look serious, so, we're not going to the hospital, you'll be fine. And I was like, no way, Jose. I mean, I heard something snapping in my back. So, no, I want to go to the hospital. So after going back and forwards, they finally took me to the hospital. And in the hospital, they didn't take any x-rays, no nothing. And they said the same. Well, it's muscle pain or something like that. So, we'll send you home. And they gave me some exercises for my muscle pain. So, a colleague of mine drove me back home. And I did my exercises for about a week. The pain was pretty terrible. I very often imagine how does hell look like. Now I know what hell looks like. Just break your back and send you home with exercises. So that wasn't any good. So after a week, I went back to another hospital. And I said, hey, I don't know what's going on, but this is what happened. And they said, okay, yeah, sure, yeah. Did you go to your home doctor? And I said, no, I just went straight to the hospital. Well, you first have to go to your home doctor. That's the rule in the Netherlands. And then you can come back to the hospital. And I said, no, I'm just going to lay here on the floor. And if you want to call the cops and drag me out of here, feel free. So they finally took an X-ray. And you know how it goes when they take an X-ray. The machine says beep. And then your x-ray is done, and then you're allowed to move again. And I heard the machine say beep, and they said, don't move. And I was like, hey, you just took the picture, so why am I not allowed to move? No, you have to stand still. Yeah, but you already have the picture, so no, there's something else going on. And it was quite clear. My back was broken. I walked down to the computer where the picture was. Well, I wasn't allowed to move, but I was like, yeah, sure. I already did exercises for about a week, so if I survive that, I can have a look at the computer screen. And it was pretty clear that my back was broken. So they put me in some sort of, contraption. And then things should heal in about 6 weeks. And 6 weeks later, and the pain was still there. The pain was terrible. And never drank so much alcohol before in my life to get rid of the pain. And after 6 weeks, they took another X-ray, and nothing changed. And 6 weeks later, they took another X-ray, and nothing changed. And 6 weeks later, they took another X-ray, and nothing changed. And that took about half a year. And they were like, well, we don't know what to do. We actually don't dare to operate on it. There's a big risk in operating on it. so we don't want to do that. And I was like, yeah, sure, but we can wait another 6 weeks, and then what? Nothing changed in half a year. So I went to another hospital. It's hospital number 3. And the first question they asked me was, do you smoke? And I was like, do you smoke? I'm here for back pain. I'm not here for my lungs. So what's that question? That was quite funny. And he was like, yeah, we think we have a plan, what we could do. But in order to do that, we have to pop a lung to get through your spine. And after the surgery, well, we can blow it up again and it'll work fine. But it'll be quite a... well, it will be quite a procedure. And I was like, yeah, sure, but that ain't my problem. And he said, well, it's quite a heavy procedure. And I was like, what do you mean with a heavy procedure? And the doctor was like, yeah, it takes around 6 or 7 hours to work on it. And I was like, yeah, so what? I'm asleep, so I don't care. I'll be fine. It's your job, and I'll wake up after 6 or 7 hours, and everything will be fine. Well, I woke up, and then I figured out, okay, this is what he meant with a serious procedure. Man, it was terrible. I woke up. The pain was, well, the pain was pretty nasty. Yeah. Now I know what hell feels like. They do surgery on you after you break your back. It's terrible, and I didn't die, which at that moment I thought was a bummer. I'd rather died. The pain was tremendous. Well, you know, when the surgery is done, they drag you off to a bed, and they're like, well, as soon as you can walk again and went to the loo, you can go back home. But after 2 nights, I couldn't breathe well. My breathing was terrible. I was like, I'm choking here. And the nurses were like, yeah, but that's normal. They just popped a lung, and it takes time to heal that. And I was like, I don't know, but this doesn't feel right. And then one of the nurses showed up at 3 o'clock in the morning, as in 3 a.m. And she checked some values, and she was like, well, something's off here. This is not good. And I was like, yeah, I bet you there's something off here. I tried to tell you that for 2 days, but you said nothing's wrong. And she said, no, this is not good. We're going to call a doctor at 3 a.m. in the morning. And he was there in 5 minutes. Well, if the doctor's there at 3 a.m. in the morning and he's there in 5 minutes, you know something's very wrong. It turned out that they poked somewhere in my lymph nodes, and the lymph nodes were leaking in one of my lungs. So one of my lungs was drowning. So then you're choking. You don't have any breath. And instead of 3 days in the hospital, it turned out to be 1.5 months. It was in a neurosurgeon ward. So the people next to me had brain surgery all the time. And about 50% of the people who were in the same room with me didn't survive. So you see people die every day. You see people coming on, and you're like, well, I don't want to be your friend since I already know what's going to happen in the next couple of days. I don't even want to know your name. So yeah, that was pretty terrible. Yeah, that was pretty terrible. So since then, I've got PTSS for everything that has to do with doctors, hospitals. I try to avoid them as much as I can. I still have my back pain. My back pain is 24/7. A lot of nerves are damaged. So that pain is also 24/7. I've lost one lung, and my lymph nodes were shot, and they're still not good. One of my lungs is still not working okay. And after 1.5 months, they do send you home. And they say, well, you're okay now. Well, I wasn't okay, not at all. The pain was unbearable. Started to use a lot of medications. Use and abuse. If the pain is big enough, well, what are you going to do? PTSS was pretty aggressive. With PTSS, it's either flee or fight. And I'm in the fight corner. So don't step on my toes. I will get after you. As soon as you're in my PTSS realm. And that led to losing my family. Lost my job. In the end, I lost my house. Well, you lose yourself. I mean, in comparison to losing your family, losing your house, losing your job, I don't want to say it's nothing, but in comparison to losing yourself, losing yourself is quite a big thing. Tried to kill myself twice. Well, that didn't work out. So I even failed at killing myself. That didn't feel great either. And in the end, well, they auctioned off my house. And some friends of me said, well, where are you going to sleep tonight? And I was like, yeah, I don't know. Under a bridge, maybe. And they said, well, you're joking. And I said, no, I'm not joking. I mean, if there's no house, I'll have to sleep under a bridge. I mean, it is how it is. And they let me stay in a single bedroom. But I still didn't, well, I lost myself. That was a big problem. So I moved out and lived on the streets for 4 or 5 years. Something like that. And well, I thought I was a Christian when I broke my back. I'm still not sure though. Might sound funny, but I went to a church. I sang the songs. I listened to the sermons. I got baptized when I was older-ish. But there's this verse in Revelations 3:15, 16. Pretty tough verse. I know your deeds, that you're neither cold nor hot. I wish that you were cold or hot, so you became lukewarm. And you're neither hot nor cold. I will vomit you out of my mouth. Well, in retrospect, I wasn't cold, I wasn't warm, so I was definitely lukewarm. So I'm not sure if I was a Christian, in all honesty. I called myself a Christian. I sang the correct songs. I knew the Bible verses. I don't know. Yeah, so I started to travel. I had an old van, pretty crappy. No windows in it, no toilet, no shower. And I traveled mainly throughout Central Europe. So that's Poland, Hungary, Croatia, Serbia, countries like that. The reason for that is that those countries are pretty cheap, or cheap-ish compared to the West. You can buy bread for 8 cents. So if you've got $1, €1, you can survive for a day. There's always water. If you go to a graveyard, there's always water at the graveyard. So you've got water. You've got some sort of... Well, if you've got money, you've got food. I don't want to beg for money. So if I didn't have any money, well, then you don't have food. So sometimes you're without food for a week. Which was pretty rough. The weird thing is, I mean, I went to Sunday school when I was younger, and they learn you those Sunday school verses and those Sunday school Bible verses. I hated to go to Sunday school, I have to be honest, but well, hey, my mom and dad sent me. uh, but those Bible verses that I learned through Sunday school, they stick with me. And it were those verses like Matthew 11:28, come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Well, I could use some rest, to be honest. But the verse starts with, come to me. So if you want God's rest, you have to come to God in order to get that. And I was like, well, I've done some pretty nasty stuff when I was homeless. Sometimes you have to protect yourself, and it's a pretty wild world out there. So I'm not sure if God wants me. I'm not sure. I mean, who am I? I'm living on the streets, and God is huge, and I'm nothing. But there was no way around it. Those Bible verses, just like I said, that Matthew 11:28, all the time that verse, it popped up in my mind whenever I wanted it or not. There it was, again and again and again. The verse Matthew 6, there's a part of look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap. Well, yada yada, you know that verse. And when you've got nothing left, that verse starts to change. You look at the birds and you start to get jealous at the birds. They've got food and you don't have any food. And you're like, huh, that bird actually looks tasty. I wish I could catch it and eat it.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
So yeah, but it's verses like that you're like, yeah, tasty bird. I wish I could catch it, and the bird is smarter than me. I mean, that bird got food, and he's got a place to sleep, and I've got nothing. And if that bird doesn't feel safe, he can go. He just flies away, and he's safe. I can't do that. Before I can start my van, it takes 5 or 10 minutes to start the old beater. So birds actually have a better life than me. And I started to get jealous at the birds. And well, somewhere along the line, I was like, those Bible verses don't pop up in your head out of nothing. There must be. This must be God talking to me. If I want it or not, he's still calling me. If I'm worthy or not, he's still calling me. So it wasn't like I searched for God. It was God searched for me. And there was no way around it. And to be, well, I lived in my van, so I had a roof above my head. Well, if it wasn't leaking, so that was a problem. But if you're some sort of homeless, the not having food part is not that tough. You'll be okay with that. The dying part is fine. I mean, if you'll die, you'll die. What can you do? But the tough part for me was the loneliness. I don't speak any word of Ukrainian, Romanian, Croatian, none. So you're in country A, B, or C. You do not speak their language. You do hear people making noises, but you don't have a clue what they're saying. phone that you have a conversation with them. You don't. So you're on the road for months on end, and you don't talk to anyone. None. You don't have a clue what they're saying. And the loneliness is killing you. So at least that was my opinion. That's my opinion. But God didn't leave me. So from a human perspective, I was lonely. But with God, I wasn't. After a while, I figured out, well, you need to have some sort of goal when you're traveling. And I'm into railroading stuff, trains. So I visited all the railroad museums in Europe. But after a while, you're like, yeah, great, another train. Hooray. The first time it's fun if you're in another country and you see a train from another country. But if you've seen 20 or 30 countries, you're like, yeah, sure. It just doesn't. So that wasn't the goal after a while. So I started to visit international churches. They're all over Europe. Their main language is English. And I start to visit them. And 1 week before I showed up at their doorstep, I sent them an email. I said, "Hey, I'm Martin. I'm traveling." I didn't tell them that I was some sort of homeless. No way. That was my that's my story. So I kept that to myself. And I sent him an email. "Hey, I'm Martin. I'll be in your city within a week. And if you need a volunteer to do some painting or whatever you want me to do, I'm available." And it wasn't for the only reason I did that was a Christian place is safe. They don't beat you up. If you're lucky, they've got a toilet. So at least you'll see a toilet once a month, which is quite a luxury. But sometimes I got lucky, in between air quotes, and they even offered me a shower. Man, if you haven't had a shower for 1.5 or 2 months, I know what heaven looks like. Heaven is a big shower. You can just stand underneath the shower for weeks there. So sometimes he offered me a shower. And I was like, man, this is a blessing. And I didn't tell him nothing who I was, or I just said I was traveling. I was on a holiday, and one of those stories is, hey, that might be a good one. I showed up once in Warsaw, Poland. I sent them an email, "Hey, do you need any help?" And they had some voluntary work to do. Oh, good for them. So I showed up. And I drove into Warsaw, and my van broke down right across the church. So at least I arrived, so that's good. But the van broke down. It didn't want to start again. So, well, that's a problem. I didn't have any food left. I ran out of money. I did some volunteering work for them. They needed some equipment for their sound booth thingy. And I spent my last couple of bucks on some equipment for their church. I didn't tell them that it was my last money. I just bought it. If they need it for God's glory, okay, here you go. But that meant I didn't have any money left. I only had 10 liters of water. I found that at the last graveyard I stopped, so I still had some water. But no food left, no nothing. And they invited me over for a men's Bible study group. Well, I wasn't that much into Bible studying back then. But hey, if they invite you over for a men's Bible study group, at least you're under a roof, and a roof is quite a luxury. You talk to people, so that helps against the loneliness. I bet they've got a toilet, so you can go to a toilet there. So that was the main reason I went to the Bible study group. And they call it something like a pizza night, something like that. Well, you know how those men's Bible study groups always have pizza. Well, if you haven't eaten for 3 or 4 days and they offer you pizza, you'll go to the men's Bible study group. So yeah, I went to the men's Bible study group. They had pizza, and yes, I guess in heaven they've got a lot of showers and pizza. Yeah, that was like heaven. The only problem was that you had to pay for the pizza. And I knew that before I showed up, but I was like, well, if I ate the pizza, what can they do? Kick me out? Well, then they kicked me out. At least I had some food. And you only had to pay $1 a person, something like that, which is nothing. But if you've got 0, then $1 is a lot of money. And after the Bible study group, I was like, whoa, now it comes. Now they're going to collect money. Now I'm done. And the pastor said, hey, Martin, you don't have to pay. You're our guest. And I was like, wow, that's a miracle. So now I had a free good meal. Well, whatever good pizza is, right? I mean, it's pizza. So they gave me a free meal. And then he said to me, hey, but I don't know why, but the money that we've collected for the pizza, we want to give it to you. We don't know why, but we some sort of have the feeling that we have to give it to you. And they gave me an envelope with money. And I was flabbergasted. I was like, what? I've got a free meal? And they don't know who I am. I don't have a clue who they are. And they gave me money. And they gave me all the leftover pizza. So I even had food for the next couple of days. Which is quite a luxury if you haven't any food for the last couple of days. And while I was chatting with one of the guys, he said, well, hey, how's your van doing? And I was like, well, not that good. It doesn't start anymore. So yeah, I might have to look, see if I can find a mechanic. And he was like, hey, I'm a mechanic. And I was
Perfect.
like, yeah, okay. That's interesting. But I can't pay you. No problem. He was, I don't know, Scottish. Yeah, he was from Scotland. He actually wore a kilt. Great guy. And he said, well, I'm not allowed to work in Poland. I don't have my work permit. But I'm a car mechanic and I don't have anything else to do, so I might as well have a look at your car. Okay. So why do you want to do that? Well, tomorrow morning I can show up in your van and we'll have a look at your van. Okay. So now I had pizza. I had pizza for the next couple of days. Had some pocket money and somebody who was willing to have a look at my van. And when that conversation was over, all of a sudden, somebody spoke to me in Dutch, which is my native language. And if you haven't spoken to anybody in weeks, let alone somebody from your own country, and all of a sudden somebody starts to talk in your own language, you're like, what? I just couldn't get it. And he said, well, where do you sleep? And I said, well, just here. Just look outside of the window. There's my van. And he said, no, you're not going to sleep in your van. I'm going on a business trip for the next couple of days. And you can sleep in my apartment. And I was like, no, what do you... I don't know the guy. He doesn't know me, and he's offering his apartment. I just couldn't get it. What are you going to say? And I was like, I can't do that. It's too much. So I went back to my van, slept in my van. And the next morning, somebody started to bang on the doors of my van. Well, if you sleep in your van and somebody's banging on your doors in the morning, it's trouble. And I was like, oh, here we go. Here's the Polish police. Well, the Polish police is not your friend, I can tell you that. So I was like, oh, here we go. It's either somebody's going to mug me, or it's the police, or... So I didn't move. I didn't make any noise. Just hope that they'll just walk away. But they didn't. Somebody kept banging on my door. And all of a sudden, they said, hey, Martin, are you in there? And I was like, hey, hang on. This person knows my name. The police doesn't know my name, so it's not the police. It's not a mugger, since they don't know my name either. So I opened up the door of my van, and one of the brothers of the Bible study group was there. And he brought some milk and some bread. And he said, hey, I'm on my way to work, and I brought you some milk and some bread and some hummus. So you've got a decent breakfast this morning. I don't know. I mean, that was in the middle of a huge parking lot, as in Kmart parking lot, huge. So there you are, eating breakfast with a brother from a church you don't know. So that was quite special. And half an hour later, the other brother showed up and he fixed my van in the middle of the parking lot. Well, I don't know how it is in the US, but in Germany, you're not allowed to tinker with your car in a parking lot. They'll call the police on you straight away. But not in Poland. Everything's like, yeah, sure. If you want to fix your car in the parking lot, fix your car in the parking lot. So there I was. I went to the Men's Pizza Bible study group. Oh yeah, and then the other brother called me, the Dutch guy, and he said, hey, where are you? And I was like, yeah, I slept in my car. And he was like, no, you don't. You've got to come to my apartment right now, since I'm going to leave to the airport. And you've got to come right now. And I was like, okay. And he was pretty pushy. Which is good. I mean, otherwise I wouldn't show up.
Yeah, it sounded like you weren't going to go.
No way. But he was Dutch, and he was pretty pushy. He was like, "Come on, you've got to come now." Okay. So quite hesitant, I showed up to his apartment, and he said, "Well, here's the key to my apartment. I did some grocery shopping for you, so the fridge is full. I left some money on the kitchen counter.
Wow.
Here are some touristic tips for you, so you can do some touristy stuff in Warsaw. And I've got to go. I've got to go to the airport." And he left. He just left. So there I was with pizza, pocket money, my own apartment for a week with a shower. That was huge. And he even had a washing machine. Can you imagine what a washing machine is when you haven't seen a washing machine in 3 months? After 3 months, you can literally hear your clothing making noises. It's that filthy. But hey, he had a washing machine. And he was like, yeah, sure, use it. Oh, and here you've got the code for my Wi-Fi. If you're, I didn't have any money for cell phone thingies. I mean, if you don't have any money for food, how do you have money for a phone? I mean, that doesn't work. And he gave me the password for his Wi-Fi. And he just left. He just left. So there I was with a washing machine, a shower. Well, what are you going to say? And the weird thing is, this was Warsaw, Poland. But the same happened in Brno, Czech Republic. The same happened in Croatia, Zagreb. The same story. So, although I didn't have a great connection with God, God had a great connection with me. And he just kept calling. He just kept saying, come to me if you're weary and burdened. Come to me. And there was just no way around it. I had to come to God. So I can't even say I hear a lot of people who say, I gave my heart to Jesus. I can't even say that. God took my heart. There's this weird Bible verse in Jeremiah 29, 12, 13. No, not that one. Let me see. Let me walk through my Bible. John 6:37. All those the Father gives me, and the me is Jesus, will come to me, and whoever comes to me, I will never drive away. I didn't choose to follow Jesus. God chose me that I could come to God through Christ. And that's huge. If God wants you in his family, he'll get you in his family. And once you're part of his family, he will never drive you away. So I guess the explanation is that, was I a Christian before that? Well, God wanted me to be a Christian, I guess. God wanted me to be a part of his family. And God didn't let me go. And there was no way around it. And although my back pain is terrible, the nerve pain is even worse. It's 24/7. I've got some brain damage. Well, hey, if you try to commit suicide with meds, well, that's not a good plan. So that fried my brain. I can only remember stuff, well, for about a week. And after a week, it's all gone. But it's great. It sounds weird, but I work with a couple of, chat ministries. And some of the stories that you'll hear through those chat ministries are not great stories. Some of the stories are pretty nasty, pretty terrible. But in my case, for me, it's hard to hear a story that's terrible. I'm like, yeah, been there, done that. And your story might be a little bit different, but I know a little bit what pain is, I guess. I know a little bit what it is to feel lonely. So it's hard to shock me with a story. It's very hard to shock me with a story. And yeah, I can have great conversations with people. But no matter what, the conversation will be out of my head very often within a day, maximum a week. So I don't lay awake in my bed with the stories that I've heard. We're working with the Emmy Foundation in Germany right now. And, well, we work with homeless people. We work with people from the Ukraine. People who are, well, socially not doing great, to say the least. So some of the stories that we hear every single day, I mean, the stories from the Ukraine, they are bad. They are really bad. But I don't remember a story after a week. And as weird as it may sound, it's a blessing to have my brain damage in our line of work. And because I have my back problems, my PTSD is still there. It's way less than it was, though. But I'm afraid it's never going to leave. Doctors will always be a problem for me. But because of that, I'm on social welfare. The Dutch government is paying me some money every month. And we can be missionaries now, full time. Funding is always a problem for missionaries. The same goes for us. But 70% of our income that we need is already paid through social welfare. So we only, in between air quotes, need 30%, which is a huge blessing. It's a huge blessing to know what it is to live on the streets. It's a huge blessing. I can go to a homeless person in Germany and I can say, hey, I know a little bit how it feels. I was homeless for a couple of years. And he knows. There's something. They feel if your story is genuine. They feel if you can say, yeah, I know how you feel, but if you haven't been there, you don't have a clue. You really don't have a clue.
Yeah, everyone's experience is different. I think that's an individual thing. So you could say that you've had a similar experience, but not necessarily feel exactly what they feel.
And that's the thing. But I hear a lot of... I had a lot of Christians say to me when I was homeless, yeah, life can be tough. And I was like, you don't have a clue. You've got a car, you've got a house, you've got a wife, you've got everything, and you're telling me that life can be tough? You don't have a clue. Seriously, you don't. And the same goes for the people that we work with. You can say to a homeless person, yeah, I know how you feel. You don't have a clue. You can say to somebody who's hungry, who didn't have food for a couple of days, yeah, that must be tough. That's theoretically blah blah. Only if you've been there, you got some sort of weird connection. And although what you say that their situation is different, but some sort of people sense that you know what pain is. And very often you don't have to say anything. They look at you, you look at them, and they're like, yep, yeah, we know. And then you don't even have to explain anything anymore. You both know that you've been there. That's opening a lot of doors. And it's like, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment a little bit more about that and maybe ask for your perspective on depression because to me it's very complicated because of, first of all, there's different causes of depression. You know, there can be circumstances or biological or spiritual oppression, you know, if it's from the enemy and like just out of nowhere, or it could be from people's own negative thoughts that just kind of like sometimes I get in a negative rut and I don't really, I've never been like terribly low, but I have had like mild depression that's probably just from my own negative thoughts, you know? And so there can be these different causes. And not only that, but there's also like different experiences, like the way that people feel within that state. And so what works for one person won't necessarily work for another person. And to me, it's just kind of a thing that I don't know, almost afraid of. I don't know if that's the right word, but just kind of, I'm very cautious about it because I know that each person's experience is, you know, individual, and I just try to be careful about saying the right thing, you know. So how would you say?
Oh, that's the thing. I mean,
Yeah.
if you, in my case, my depression was pretty serious. I mean, you're not trying to commit suicide out of nothing, right? So that was a pretty serious, pretty serious question, pretty serious matter, and if you've been there, you know that every depression is different. You know that every solution is probably different. There is some common ground, but I'm not you and you're not me. And if you've been there, you know that. You know that you're not me, I'm not you. The solution for your problem might be a total different one than mine. But if you haven't been there, from my experience, people way too often give empty answers. Yeah, God will take care of you. Yeah, sure. Yeah, God has a reason for everything. Well, if you're in a big depression, don't say that to me. You better don't. And if you've experienced it yourself, you do know that it's better not to say stuff like that. You know that it doesn't work. You know that, I don't know. I had a lot of people who, when I started to live on the streets, in the very beginning, I met a sister from my old home church. And she asked me on the platform, "Hey, Martin, how are you doing?" And I said, "Well, not great. I'm some sort of homeless now, and it's not going good." And her answer was, "Yeah, well, God has a plan for everyone, and I'm going to pray for you." Yeah, just great. Although it's true that God has a plan, um, but that's not the answer that you want to give to somebody who has a serious depression. You just don't do that. And I guess she meant well. I guess that she really thought that that was a good answer. But if you've been there, you know that that's not the answer. You know that the only answer can be, well, I might know a little bit how you feel. Not a lot, I guess, but I do. Well, I might feel I might have been in the same sort of circumstances, but hey, your circumstances are mine, so what do I know? And in some sort of way, the other person senses that you do know. I don't know how that works, but very often the only thing I have to say to a homeless person or whatever is, yeah, I know. And from the expression on your face, they do know that you know. And you don't have to say anything else. And they also know that you don't have the answer. Since their circumstances are different. Yeah, so that's how it works for me.
Yeah. Now, when you were suicidal, it sounds like that was before you were saved, but I know that there are saved people who struggle with severe depression like that. And
Yep.
so what do you usually say to encourage someone who is saved and depressed?
Well, the weird thing is, I mean, I get a lot of people, or I have a lot of conversations with people who lost somebody through suicide, or they are thinking about suicide themselves. And they all, very often, they're like, well, that's the unforgivable sin, and I might have done something terribly, but mental problems it's just an illness. I mean, you can break your leg, and your brain is just, in between air quotes, an organ that can get sick. And you can get sick. Yeah. Your liver can get sick. You can break your leg. And sadly, we live in a broken world. And you can read in Genesis 3 what it means to live in a broken world. The world's not perfect anymore. And as long as we're here, we live in a world with thorns and thistles, and we get sick. Yeah. And some people get cancer and can get terminally ill. And some people get a depression and get terminally ill, which is terrible. But the same for if you've got cancer, you go to a doctor. If you break your leg, you go to a doctor. You don't just drink tea, sing kumbaya, and wait until it's over. You go to a doctor, to a good doctor. I mean, it's your leg, so at least go to a doctor that was better than mine. That might be a good one.
Yeah, definitely.
Try to find a good doctor. That's what you do with a broken leg. So why don't we do the same when our brain's broken? Why do we hesitate to go to a doctor when our brain's broken? Why is there some sort of stigma around depression and suicide? Yeah, well, we shouldn't talk about it, or it's a tough topic. Yeah, it is a tough topic, but it's just, in between air quotes, you're sick. Go to a doctor. There are therapists. There are doctors. There's medication for that. That doesn't mean it's going to solve everything within 5 minutes. The same with a broken leg. I mean, a broken leg already takes 6 weeks. My broken back didn't heal in half a year. So yeah, it might take a while. Yeah. But Luke was a doctor. Paul, his best friend, Timothy, he had some stomach problems. And Paul had the gift of healing. And instead of Paul healing Timothy, he advised him to take, drink some wine. Some sort of alternative med. Paul had a thorn. That's the Paul from the Bible. That's the Paul who had the gift of healing. And he had a thorn and he prayed for it 3 times and it didn't go away. So why all of a sudden do we think that we are better than Paul that we are better than Luke. Luke was a doctor. Go to a doctor. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing. And people get sick. Christians get sick. But to ignore Genesis 3, I think that's not correct. God promised in Genesis 3 what would happen if we ate the apple, the fruit thingy. And here we are in a broken world. And the thorns do hurt. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's just one more thing about depression. So one time I was thinking about a certain person who was struggling with depression, and a verse came to my mind, Psalm 55:2, cast your burden on the Lord, and he shall sustain you. And at the moment that I was thinking of her, I wasn't praying at the moment. It just, the verse came to my mind, and I shared it with her. It seemed perfect for her. The thing that stood out was he shall sustain you, and I'm not sure what your take on that would be, because it's not like, I don't know, like it would be like everything's going to be fixed, but I mean, just the promise that he shall sustain you. So what is your perspective of that, just knowing about depression?
If you look at, let me get another verse for you. Jeremiah 29:12-13. Then you will call on me and come to me and pray to me, and I will listen to you. You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart. So if you want God to, if you want to get verse 12, you need to do verse 13. Seek me, that is God, with all your heart. If you do that, God will listen to you. So the ball is in your court to begin with. You have to go to God. Why do we think that God is all of a sudden going to help us if we don't care about God? That's weird. God is not a magic genie in a bottle. So you've got to come to God first. Does that mean that God is going to heal you? The same as your depression question? No. God didn't heal my back. He didn't heal my lungs. He didn't heal my lymph nodes. He didn't heal my PTSD. He didn't heal... I can't remember. It's a long list. He didn't heal a lot of stuff. But he had a better plan. And because of all the stuff that happened, including my depression, we can be missionaries now in Germany. So, no, God didn't heal a lot of stuff for me. But I'm grateful for that. It's great that he didn't do that. Did I see that when I was depressed? No. No, not at all. Depression is a weird animal. Depression is... Well, do you wear glasses or something like that?
Rarely.
Okay. Well, do you wear sunglasses in the summer?
Sometimes, but well, for glasses in general, I'm nearsighted, but it's not like severe. Okay. Well, so I just sometimes use them.
Here's the thing: everybody is wearing sunglasses. Literally in the summer. But when you're depressed, you're definitely wearing sunglasses on your brain. What you think you see is not what's really there. Your brain thinks that there is no sun. But there is sun. Your brain some sort of developed some weird dark sunglasses, and your brain really thinks there's no sun. It's not there. But there is. The sun's there. But it's the sunglasses that do trick you. Those devilish, dark sunglasses. Like those, you've got those welding glasses when people are welding. They're very, very dark sunglasses. And if you look through those sunglasses, you really believe that the sun's not there. And you really believe that God is not there either. But that's not true. God is there. The Son is there. The Son, Jesus Christ, is there. But for now, you have those depression, dark sunglasses. So what you feel might not be the truth and not be the truth at all. And God wants to take away those dark sunglasses. He really wants to. But that does mean that you'll have to do what Jeremiah 29 verse 13 says, seek me with all your heart. And the tough thing is, if God is in you for 100%, there cannot be darkness, since God is light.
Oh.
But it's very hard for us human beings to give everything to God. That's tough.
Yeah, and to seek Him too.
Yeah, and to seek Him. I mean, that's. I mean, I'm Dutch. I'm a man. And to give everything to God, that's huge. And to seek Him with all my heart, woof, that's a big one. But that's the only way out of this dark sunglasses thing. And that's going to be a battle for the rest of our lives. The world's not perfect anymore. Just look at the news. I'll get depressed as soon as I turn on the news these days.
Mm.
And
well,
so yeah, it's a matter of, are we really willing to give everything to God 100%? If we do, He wants to be there for you. He really wants to. But that does also mean that we have to trust God on what His big plan is, although we don't understand what His big plan is. God's big plan was bigger than just breaking my back. Those are minor details. And I trust Him on that. And I'll probably die a terrible way. I mean, I only have one lung left. My heart's not that good either. But that's okay, as long as it's for the glory of God. I'm fine with it. It's a blessing to although my body hurts 24/7, it's a blessing to have it. Does that mean it's easy? No. No. But it is a blessing. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. So I guess as far as, let's see. You know, as far as the different things that people could do. So this one person started meds. She started a medication, and it did help. But it might not, necessarily fix everything. We'll see how it goes, because she's still kind of new on the medication.
Take a couple of weeks.
And yeah. But I was talking to another person, and she said, well, the medication won't fix everything completely, but it'll help lift the darkness. And from there, she'll have to seek God, because, it still does involve, finding that peace from Him. And I think that really, what you said about seeking God with your whole heart, that really has been a big thing that I've come to learn lately, as far as like seeking Him wholeheartedly and knowing that He will answer when we are diligent, because it says He's the rewarder of those who diligently seek Him. Not half-heartedly, not like 75%, not even 99%, but if you're wholehearted, like if you are surrendered to Him, if you're seeking with Him, seeking Him with your whole heart, then He's going to answer, and it won't always be exactly how you want, but it's going to be in some way. He'll give you what you need. That's how I'd like to see it. I don't know if that lines up with your experience.
I mean, if you trust God that no matter what, He has the best plan ever. As soon as you get that, then you're okay. But as long as we're like, I have a plan and God has to do what I want Him to do for me, that ain't gonna work. But that's a huge step. And very often, like you say, it's very often a combination. I mean, God gave you doctors. Luke was a doctor. So why don't you go to a doctor? So it might be a combination of medication, therapy, counseling. It might be a complete package of a couple of things. And for every person, it's different. But at least give it a try. And with every step, the same with meds. If you start to take medication, if it's necessary, but you don't trust God, woof, that's a tough one. If you trust God, but don't take the medication that God gave you, I don't know. So it's very often a mix of things. But the most important is that we have to trust God no matter what. I had a brother who died of, I don't know. Well, he had some weird medical thingy going on. And a lot of people said to him, hey, why don't you stop? Why don't you make an appointment with a doctor? Let's get it over with. And he was like, no, I trust God. I trust God no matter what, till my very last breath. And, well, after a couple of months, he died. Not a great death, to be honest. It was pretty nasty. But that man has been an example for me for the rest of my life. That man trusted God, no matter what. If God wanted to pull the plug, God pulled the plug. But he was like, no, I'm not going to pull the plug. It's up to God. And his faith in that was so big. And that man was a huge example for me when I had my depression. If he could trust God through all the pain, I can try to do the same. The thing is that I've never told that story to that person. So that guy died, and he is a great example to me until this very day. But he doesn't know that. Well, he didn't know that when he was dying. But he trusted God, and he said, well, through my life, people will see how big God is. But nobody told him that he was a great example for him. Nobody. So it might be that we don't know what's happening. We don't know why we go through very, very rough times. And we might not even hear it when we're alive. The same as my brother who died. But that brother, through his death, helped me to struggle through a part of my depression. But he doesn't know. Nobody told him. He's in heaven right now, so it might be that he knows right now. But sometimes I wish that he could have known. Sometimes I wish that he could have known in the last couple of hours that he lived. Okay, so this was God's big plan to help Martin in 20 years from now through a part of his depression. But he didn't. And the only thing that he had left in the end was a lot of pain, but more faith in God than his pain was worth it. I mean, the pain in comparison to his faith in God, it was nothing. And I very often wish that people could see that plan from God. I feel very blessed that at least I can I can say, okay, I got it why God let this happen to me. I get it. Through all my pain, through all my depression, we can do the work that we do right now in Germany. And God showed me a little bit of his big plan. But that's a huge blessing, and that doesn't always happen. But I trust God that he does have a plan, even through all the pain. Yeah. And he does.
Amen. And of course, that's not a cliche thing. That is something where, it's very real, and we need to seek him and just trust in his promises. I guess that would be the way
Yeah,
to look at it.
But it might not be the promises in our life. It might be a promise for somebody else's life. But I trust him on that. If my, humanly speaking, pretty painful life can bring others to God through Christ, that's big.
That is, yeah.
And if I believe that, I can live with my pain 24/7. If I don't believe that, then the pain will kill me mentally. But as soon as you, to seek me with all your heart, as you said, it's not 75%, it's not 80, it's not 99, it's 100%. As soon as you can say, I trust God no matter what, 100%. And I trust him that my pain might be a great example for others to go to God through Christ. Well, then you can rejoice through all your pain.
Amen.
Yeah. But that doesn't mean it's always easy. No. No, not at all.
Yeah.
No.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's good to be understanding of that as we talk to other people. Well, I'm not sure if there's anything else you would like to share, but it's been over an hour, and I know it's kind of late where you are right now, so...
Oh, it's still okay. It's 8 p.m., so that's fine. Hey, can I end with the Bible verse?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. 2 Corinthians, verse 1... 2 Corinthians 1, verse 3 through 4. Praise be to the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of compassion and the God of all comfort, who comforts us in all our troubles, so that we can comfort those in any trouble with the comfort we ourselves received from God.
Amen. That's good. Well, thank you for sharing all of that, and thank you all for listening. I hope this has been a blessing to you. I hope there are some things that you can take away from this, not only for your own life, but also to encourage others. So please stay tuned for more of these interviews, and God bless. Take care.
Take care.